Hi, I'm here today with my friend JD Arland. JD is a sophomore in general communication and also announcer for men's basketball. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is JD Arland. I am a Purdue sophomore in the general communication program. I'm a degree in 3 student pursuing an honors track.
How did you get into announcing?
Gosh, it's been a long road to get where I am. I started out in Central Florida as a child actor. You wouldn't know it now from the way I act, but I actually did musicals. Got into acting on TV commercials, worked with Comcast a little bit, and then from there I actually got into stand-up comedy. I always knew I liked making people laugh and entertaining people, but stand-up just wasn't the scene for me. When I moved up to Indiana for high school, I knew that I wanted to be in broadcasting. I just didn't know where. Went to Carmel High School in Carmel, Indiana, and eventually found my home there. Broadcasting started off as something that I dreamed about doing when I was in Central Florida, and then I was actually given the tools at Carmel to pursue that, and then eventually I got into it professionally with the Indianapolis Star, and then ended up coming to college for it.
How long have you been announcing?
Actually broadcasting since about the 7th grade.
Run through an average game day for you.
Game day is unique. I have a very superstitious tradition. I go to bed wearing the same thing every time, wear the same brand of socks, wear the same brand of shirt every day throughout the day, and then I feel ready to go. Usually I'll wake up about 5 or 6 hours before the game, listen to a very specific playlist, go over my stats, go over my storylines, call a few people and sources kind of as needed. And then I'll actually get into what I'm going to say, writing intros, whatever. I try to eat a balanced breakfast. I try to eat a balanced lunch. Usually it's right at dinner time, and so if I can fill my body before that, it's beneficial. 3 hours before the game, I'll usually shower, get into my suit, and then head down to usually Mackey Arena with my headphones on. I prefer only to walk to work because it allows me to kind of clear my head. I usually stop by Jimmy John's on the way, drink a green tea, and then I'm locked in, walk into work, and usually we have things to do right away. And so our work actually begins about 2 hours before the game. We're recording intros, we're meeting with athletes, we're recording interviews, because when game time starts, you have to be in the zone, and you have to have all your ducks in a row. And so my day actually starts about 6 hours before the game begins.
What are the hardest moments you've had as a result of announcing?
This is sort of deep. I'll get into this, but in high school, both of my parents battled cancer. My mom, it was breast cancer. My father battled a brain tumor. And so kind of separating what I was doing between working and my home life was difficult. Locking in, getting in the zone when, at home, you've got people to take care of and you see people in pain, and then being able to isolate that and still being able to perform on air was pretty difficult. On top of that, as anyone would say, I've got a very busy schedule. I'm taking 20 hours. I work 3 different jobs. And so all through my life, I've just kind of lived in this constant state of busy chaos. And so I think it's really hard to separate what you're doing outside and not let any of that trickle into the inside of how you perform on air, or the things you say, or how funny or inviting you might be on the broadcast. Even when you've had a bad day, getting on air and doing your job is difficult at times.
What have some of your favorite moments been while announcing?
Gosh, I really enjoyed high school broadcasting because there was a lot of creativity. Not a lot of people, I'd say 50 at best, tuned into some of our broadcasts. So you had a lot of creative freedom to say whatever you wanted. But when I got into college, having some of that creative freedom can be terrifying because you've got such a large audience and people that are kind of picking apart everything you do. My favorite moment of all time was last year, the season opener for Purdue basketball. I was on the floor at Mackey, and one of my co-hosts who wasn't on air that night, Brett, said, "Hey, Vincent Edwards and Carson Edwards share a name, so you should call them the law firm of Edwards and Edwards." And I was thinking about it, and I could not slip it into the broadcast. And then eventually Vince made a big play, Carson made a huge block, and I just dropped the line. I said, "The law firm of Edwards and Edwards hands out its back-to-back punishments to this Cougar team." And my friends loved it. My family thought it was hilarious. And then 2 weeks later, I was driving to Indianapolis, and I saw they put it up on a billboard. And I was blown away that just some dumb joke that I thought of right before the game could travel so far. So actually getting to see my work pay off, I'd say, was one of my favorite moments.
And a question we all probably wonder about: do you get to know the athletes as a result of being an announcer?
Yes, I've been lucky to maintain and foster relationships with a lot of the Purdue athletes outside of the game. Of course, I think any person that you're interviewing or any person that you're talking to, you need to have a relationship with outside, because that's when you're going to get the best details, is when they feel comfortable with you and they know you. Obviously, I try to separate work from my social life, so as far as those relationships, maintain great friendships with all of the athletes that I have. I do see them on the weekends, which I'm lucky to. But yeah, it's been a really cool experience, because you grow up watching Purdue athletes, and these are superheroes. And then you get to see them in your daily life, and that's pretty cool too.
Well, thank you, JD, for inviting me to your house. We will see you on air next time.